conversation. It's the conversation. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's go. Let's go. No filter, no restrictions. You about to get my opinion in its purest form. So my words, don't try to spin them. What I said is what I said, and what I said I meant it. The gloves are off now when I'm coming out swinging. So engage in verbal combat, but you better be ready. Cause this here for me is light work, even if the topic's heavy. I'm ready for it all with no running from nothing. You just take the time to digest what I put in, no rushing. But time is moving, don't waste it. You want the real, come and face it. Come sit and talk to me if you want it straight without a chaser. And it might burn a little when you step on up to taste it, but it's nothing harsh, I promise. Just a little conversation. It's the conversation. It's the conversation. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's go. Let's go. No filter, no restrictions. You about to get my opinion in its purest form. So my words, don't try to spin them. What I said is what I said, and what I said I meant it. The gloves are off now when I'm coming out swinging. So engage in verbal combat, but you better be ready. Cause this here for me is light work, even if the topic's heavy. I'm ready for it all with no running from nothing. You just take the time to digest what I put in, no rushing. But time is moving, don't waste it. You want the real, come and face it. Come sit and talk to me if you want it straight without a chaser. And it might burn a little when you step on up to taste it, but it's nothing harsh, I promise. Just a little conversation.
Hey, guys. Welcome back to the conversation with Harold and Dave. Let me fix this a little bit. Harold, you're looking a little shorter than Dave. There we go. Let's fix that. There we go. we don't want to create any dynamics and power or bullying, from Dave, so we'll make him the same size as you. So we're on here because we're responding to the broadcast yesterday of the president of Ukraine with J.D. Vance and Trump, and we've got a lot of opinions and a lot of responses. But what we want to do is we're going to show the video. And guys, we normally don't do it like this, but I want to do it for today. I'm going to play the video and I'm going to stop it at certain times and get feedback. So it's the first thing for me is the opening of this interview. Let's watch.
For them. Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody.
So that comment right there, before we even get into the Ukraine, what he just said, I'm not going to talk bad about Putin and then say, how are we on the deal? I don't understand that statement when he does that with everybody else. You didn't say glowing things about the president of Mexico or the prime minister of Canada.
He says horrible, despicable things about people. That's his jam. I mean, it's almost like you almost don't criticize him for him because it's his brand at this point that he says horrible, terrible things about people. And in the end of the day, you have to work with them, or maybe you don't. Maybe that's why he's such a bad politician or a bad leader. But he has made deals. The thing is, in the past, in his business, he has made deals with people he was an enemy of, if you will, previously. And so I don't, his life experience doesn't line up with what he just said.
I mean, basically for me is, we started out with him denying even knowing Putin. And then when the truth of that came out, we realized that he had a stronger relationship with Putin than that he had informed the American people of. And so even in this particular case, he's running the same plays, not out of the same playbook, and not wanting to go against Putin, although we know that Putin is not loyal to him. Just look at what happened, right after the election and what he did as far as putting photos of the president's wife on Russian TV. So it's amazing that he continues to hold that position or hold that line when Putin has already demonstrated that he's not holding the same line with him.
And one other thing, all right, the guy who's, that guy there said a lot of crappy things about the guy who's off camera here. called him a dictator. He's sitting right next to a dude that he has been bad mouthing, and
Right.
he in a different news. I think it might have been early in this one. I saw some clips of people saying to him, "You called Zelensky a dictator. Now you're meeting him." And Trump's like, "Oh, I didn't call him that." And it's like, let's roll the tape, you know. And so the thing is that he's denying doing this when he's just recently been called out for doing it to the guy he's sitting next to. That's all I'm saying.
I think people forget this thing called receipts. And in today's world, you have to know everything you say is being recorded or somebody's got a clip on it. It goes back to the thing where he said, when I look at these deals with Mexico and Canada, these are terrible deals. Who would ever sign these deals? They're horrible. And then they had to play the clip of, you made the deals and you said they were the greatest deals ever. So it's one of those things. Let's keep rolling.
The United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side is exactly.
Zelensky's face says it all. He's like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, what am I supposed to do here? I'm on national television, and you're saying stuff that we probably didn't even discuss you talking about in a manner that we didn't even discuss you talking about it.
He has such a, it's like, this guy has such hatred for Putin. I'm like, have you seen what Putin's done to his country for 3 years?
Plus,
I mean, like, the divorce from reality here, well, that's normal for these guys, right? They live in a narrative and they've lost the ability to understand where they're diverging from the truth. And they can't understand reactions from people because these people, the normal people, are seeing the world in different ways, right? And they see the world people see the world in a much less distorted way. These guys are so embedded in their narrative that I think they believe it at this point. And so they're no longer able to understand how to moderate what they say and the lies they're telling, at any given time.
Yeah. I mean, basically, he's gotten Trump in its realest form. I mean, this is what we as the American people have known Trump to be. One who would say one thing today and something different tomorrow. And then he'd be totally oppositional just to the notion of, hey, we were cooperative before, but hey, I want to change the narrative. I want to look like the strong man or the big man. And remember, he's still having to defend the lie he originally told during the campaign trail that he would end this war in one day after being elected. So it still hasn't happened, and we don't know how long it's going to take or if it will ever even end under his watch.
Him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
No one who has to say
wait. I could be so tough, you're never going to get a deal that way, when this is the guy that says, I'm going to be tough and get the deals done with everybody. Did you see the look on Zelensky's face when he said, I can be tough? He's like, do you have any idea what it takes to be tough? But this is the best part this is one of the best parts of the interview, because the child, first of all, it seems like Zelensky is the only grown up in the room, but the child is now going to speak. Oh, and hold on, we have a comment from Christopher McPhail. They have not lost sight of anything. They know exactly what they are doing by disenfranchising or gaslighting Zelensky and anyone who stands in their way with facts, ethics, or morality.
Well, that's an interesting thing that I think they're embedded in their narrative, and their narrative works within its confines. That's why these are people who, this is someone who won election to the White House, right? This is somebody who may not be in the Forbes 500, but he's got a lot more money than I do. So he has been taught lessons, and their narrative works in the confines of their movement and their people, and now their advisors. Whether or not Trump understands how it works is questionable. I would say though that anytime these guys, anytime you impute a Machiavellian plan on them, I'm like, I don't know. I think they work off of instinct. They work off playbooks that have worked, and they are muddling through. But that statement, by the way, isn't refined. That's my. It's studying world leaders. That's usually what they do, right? So they all do that. So, but yeah, in general, they've learned that it is not. That's the narrative. The narratives, they're embedded in the narrative because it's so functional for them. And they haven't, and I think that's part of their problem.
Functional for them. Oof.
Got them elected.
Well, let's listen to the other guy in the room. Hold on.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden, of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine.
I can't hear.
Of East and Crimea.
Well, they can hear you saying you can't hear. Did your sound go out?
I didn't touch anything. I don't know what happened.
All right. Well, you'll tell from Dave's response what was said. Okay, until it comes back on.
What I've been doing.
So
That's
he
what I've been
occupied
doing.
on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President
There it
Trump
is.
stop him.
So this is the part where he tried to appeal to the ego, Harold. He's saying, hey, in 2014, he basically invaded large parts of our country, but it wasn't just Trump. We had President Obama, we had President Trump, we had President Biden, and President Trump again. And he said, thank God, President Trump again, trying to keep it in a good, a good conversation, but that went south.
Mm.
That went south, and we're going to watch it go south.
But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I love when somebody corrects you and they're still wrong. So he said
Right.
2014.
He just corrected the guy about when his country lost
Right.
Crimea.
Right. That's like me telling you, Harold, you weren't born in the year you were born. No, you weren't. You were born in this year. He said 2014. Trump says 2015. And he says, no, 2014. And like Steve Holler always says, thank you for missing correcting me.
Oh, wow.
Hold on. So let's keep going.
he
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly right.
That was-
But during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him. Me, like a new president in 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people, and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this.
Okay, so let's stop it there.
He
Did you
Zelensky.
did you see anything wrong in Zelensky's response in question?
There's nothing wrong. He just gave. He's not a native speaker of English, right? So he's trying to put this in. He's also trying to string together an argument that takes a couple minutes, right? And you remember when I had to, debate the Trump supporter, and I went through kind of a chain of events about whether presidents are really accountable for economic conditions. And the guy's like, well, I find it interesting it took 5 minutes to go through that. Because the very idea that something is involved and complex is rejected by a lot of these guys, right? But he didn't make the argument succinctly, and he didn't. I think he's a little pissed here, right? Of saying, but he's also, who the hell is this guy? You notice he calls him JD because Zelensky's a president. So, this guy's a step below him. I don't care if it's the United States. You're the, but the thing is that he's made the point that, hey, we've had diplomacy. And at every step along the way, we've made agreements with Russia, and at every step along the way, Russia has violated them. So what diplomacy, are we talking about now? And that's a question that could open conversation, right? But is instantly reacted in an ad hominem way. It's taken as a ad hominem as an attack on the person, right? And so, you're litigating in front of the American press, right? And the very fact that you just went through that, I'm not going to deal with the specifics of what you said because,
Ah,
quite frankly, I don't have an answer. I'm going to react and say you were wrong to even just do that. And the hands are up. He's literally waving his hands. It's a hand wave to the substance. And now the attacks on Zelensky begin. And it's now the conversation is being framed as him coming to the White House and disrespecting them.
well, because words, Harold. He said diplomacy, and that makes you're just using words. Diplomacy. So he has a legitimate question, like, what diplomacy are you talking about?
Right.
And it seems to me that they're trying to imply that he hasn't done either anything or enough to bring this thing to an end, or
No,
to
he
earn
hasn't.
their support, or to
No,
earn their support.
no, he hasn't, Harold. When they were invaded, he just sat back and said, "Take it. I'll take it like a big boy." That's what he said. He didn't try anything.
I think he hasn't. JD's argument has this inherent or potential inherent flaw in that he complained that Biden was worried about words. He wants Trump's actions, but we're going to do diplomacy. Now, diplomacy can have actions in it, right? But, the question is what actions, right?
Mm.
What actions are you going to take? And other than this kind of hero worship of Trump, right? That Trump just being Trump is somehow some great thing. You'd be hard pressed to say what actions is Trump even offering to take, right? I haven't heard one thing. Trump wants him to sign agreements for these minerals, but we have yet to hear one single concrete offer that I'm aware of an action the United States would take, right? That might be coming, right? But so I think in Vance himself, we have this muddle, right? We have this word salad of you're saying Biden only did words, but we're coming in with diplomacy, and I'm like, so
Hey, Give us all your resources and we'll help you. Where have they heard that before? Oh, yeah, the continent of Africa. All right, here we go.
Mm.
The American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the.
So, Harold, the president of Ukraine just said, have you been in Ukraine? You're telling me the problems that we have. Come there once, and JD's answer was, I've watched video. Because, that's the same. Watching a video on people being homeless is one thing. Being around a bunch of people that are homeless and watching them go through being homeless is a totally different experience.
I mean, I've seen video of Gaza and the damage there, but it doesn't mean I have the full understanding of the situation that's on the ground. So to say I've seen video, what does that mean? I mean, you could have saw a video of Ukraine 20 years ago where there wasn't this destruction.
Well,
so to say I've seen video is really, really intellectually dishonest.
It is very, because I'll use myself for example. I saw a lot of war movies growing up. It was totally different from when I was actually there with my boots on the ground in Iraq. It was a totally different feeling from when I was watching those things happen on TV or on a video. Dave?
Well, and JD's not wrong. Okay, he's not wrong, because that is the overwhelming problem Ukraine has in maintaining this war, is that they are a smaller country than Russia. And, they haven't been able to empty their jails. And, like a lot of democracies, you're in the third year of a war. The volunteers have been, have volunteered, and they are.
Wait, pause on that. We'll keep that thought, because what you just said is important, because people don't understand. Patriotism runs out fast when it's getting muddier and muddier. We remember ourselves how every American was, 9/11, it was like, go, 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 go. But after about 2 years of stomaching death and violence and people returning in boxing, that patriotism starts to slow down with the go, 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 let's do it.
And I would point out to JD that World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam were all fought with people who were forced to go fight, on the United States side, right? We conscripted, and not to mention the Civil War. In fact, before World War II, the United States had the first peacetime conscription in our history. And so the idea that it's a sign of weakness, if you're trying to make America great again, the great America of the past drafted people and sent them to fight. And so I don't know what his point is, but the problem is for Zelensky is they're getting in his head now. He has just reacted ad hoc, he's just now has gone after JD. Hey, have you been in my country? And it's understandable, but here it's getting personal on both sides, and it is going to go further off the rails.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And Christopher just points out he's shut down, arms crossed. Yeah, the body language here. Zelensky is now starting to make errors. Forced errors, but errors.
Oh, Arnold, I thought you were going to say something. Not just my bad. Hold on, I'm going to press play.
Press play. Let's go.
And I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
When did he attack?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
and
know
it's
that.
over.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on this
position to
question.
dictate that.
Another thing I realize when watching this, because I'm gonna, I don't side with President Trump often. I can see the misconception of what he was trying to say when he says it sounds like a threat when you tell somebody you're gonna feel it. But again, English is not the first mode of, first language, and I get what he's trying to say. You're an ocean. I always tell people this example. We're in the United States, right? There's 50 states here, right? Now imagine all 50 of those states are different countries. That changes the game.
Well, and but this is the point too, where he was just trying to deal with what JD is saying, trying to say, hey, look, everyone has trouble in war. You've had trouble in war. And then he goes, he makes his point and he doesn't think it's going to be a big deal. And it shouldn't be a big deal, but Trump seizes on it as such. And Trump is not, we could be done here, right? Because from this point, it is Zelensky is not going to make, to my, a really good counterpoint to anything, because Trump is now lambasting him. Trump is now scolding him. And from here on in, it's Trump reacting to what Trump thinks he just heard.
It sounds to me that a lose-lose situation was created, or he was baited into a lose-lose situation, which, like you were saying earlier, John, you already have a language issue or a language translation issue. And the more you attempt to say that may, in your own mind, be positive or try to encourage some level of support, it's lost in translation. And now the appears the conversation has gone left.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank
Have you said thank you once? Let me put up this comment real quick before you guys respond. Christopher McPhail says, Zelensky has shut down the cross arms and body language. He knows it's pointless with these two. Diplomacy, to quote the Princess Bride, I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Inconceivable. Chris, yes.
It's almost like it's always this hijacking of what I'm saying. It goes back to the whole Kaepernick kneeling thing. He says why he's kneeling, but then everybody tells him why he's kneeling. He literally is telling you out of his mouth the words of what he's describing and why he's saying what he's saying, and you respond differently and tell him those aren't the words he's saying.
And the lose-lose situation is absolutely, if there, for this last exchange, that is the dude in black there was in a lose-lose situation. To deal with Trump, you need to shut up, let it run its course, and, just, wait for him to give you a chance and then kiss his ass. I'm sorry if you misunderstood. I didn't mean that. The leader of a country cannot allow himself to be, talk about litigating in front of the press.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot, no leader of a country can allow another leader of the country to do what Donald Trump just did. You didn't need the sound on. You did not need to understand English. You don't need a translation if you're Ukrainian to understand that Trump is berating him, right? His body language is there. And if you are the leader of a country, you can't just sit there. So he's trying to interject. He's trying to make, he's trying to get back in there. but that's just pissing Trump off. And that was, to my mind, that is, I mean, Harold brought it up. It's lose lose, and this is it is absolutely for the last few seconds been that in a big way.
But I guess one thing I'm curious about is, this is the first time, if I'm not mistaken, Vance has been with Trump when he's met with world leaders, in that type of space. And in this particular one, it seems as if they were, like I said, it seemed scripted to a certain extent of where they were going to push the narrative or the conversation, which led to some level of frustration. But I mean, maybe you can refresh my memory or correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall when he's met with world leaders before. So why, with the Ukrainian leader, would JD Vance be a part of that conversation? That's just my take.
That's a good question. It might be a slight to have the vice president in there because you think Zelensky's you're putting JD at the same level as Zelensky, saying, "Hey, this is the junior partners meeting." Harold Keone brought up the idea
wait, what you just said, I just thought of that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen a press conference or televised meeting of two world leaders and like the vice president or the whoever's behind the prime minister speak. Why don't we just have the first ladies in there commenting? I've never seen. Has that happened? Does that happen?
But that's why I raised the question.
Yeah.
That's why I raised the question. I don't recall ever seeing that before.
And
to mention that usually they have their discussions privately and then come out publicly and discuss what they discussed.
And for people who don't understand, it doesn't matter if you're the bigger country, the more powerful country. It's the level of respect. One of the issues I had when we went to Iraq, we went to take over this unit, and they told us that the Iraqis that we were partnering with, they can't be trusted, right? They just kept banding that into our head. So when we took over, those Iraqis fought tooth and nail for us and helped us out so much. So we finally asked the major, like, what they were saying you guys are doing is not what you guys are doing for us. And he said, it's all about respect. I'm a major. They didn't see it fit to talk to me. They would send the privates in to brief me and to talk to me, and they'd stay in the truck. When you guys took over, your leaders talked to our leaders. Your lieutenants talked to our lieutenants. Your soldiers were out there with our soldiers training. It's all about respect. And that's the thing. People want respect, but they don't understand mutual respect. There were a lot of comments for the people that were siding with Trump saying Zelensky was disrespectful. You don't come in the White House and overtalk the president and badmouth the president. It was all Zelensky's fault. Zelensky's fault.
Of course.
You have a vice president that's shouting at a president of another country.
And Zelensky did not address Trump, right? He responded to what Vance was saying, and Trump gets into it more, with that exchange. When I was like, okay, it's over from here, because now Trump lands into the conversation like a ton of bricks, and now it's between Zelensky and Trump ain't having it. And so
I don't want to rewind, because I said rewind like I'm old, because the thing you just said, and sorry to cut you off, but it's like the thing you just said.
Yeah.
When he was responding to JD Vance, Trump really wasn't agitated. He was looking back and forth like he was a tennis match. The moment JD said, and disrespect our president, the light bulb went off. I'm being disrespected. And then
I'm being disrespected, or it's now out there that this is a disrespect moment, right?
Yeah, because he was just listening to the
conversation. And I think we're just seeing there are a lot of things. Whether this was premeditated, I am always very skeptical of people stage managing things. Even though people do, they usually do it in ways that are more obvious, if they do, that are meant to mitigate things. Big, complex Machiavellian traps are not as common in reality as they are in books.
Mm.
But Harold could be right. They could have said, we want JD in there because they wanted to stir things up. I don't think, they were willing to let him be in there and let him run his mouth. So they at least accepted the chances could go off the rails and were okay with that. Uh, Although that runs counter if you've just made a deal that you think is good, right? They had a deal they were going to sign this afternoon that they didn't sign. If the deal was good, if it wasn't good, you couldn't have made it. If it was good, you've just screwed up by breaking it. And so, letting the meeting go off the rails when there's a deal that you're supposed to sign that afternoon is political malpractice.
Mm. Yeah.
Plain and simple. But these are not the kind of people that think that way. They're not establishment. And they don't, and they're disruptors. They're sledgehammers. They're chainsaws. All
All
right.
right, we got 5 minutes and six the video left. Let's keep going.
This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save.
Did he go there to Pittsburgh to campaign with the president, or was he going there to talk to the person that was actually president at the time and dealing with what's going on in his country?
I think what they're referring to is he went to he did tours of defense plants
Mhm.
that were making weapons for them and spoke up his cause. And that at the time was seen by Republicans as being campaigning,
But
right?
it's not campaign. But that well, no, I'm not fussing at you, Dave. But if we go back and I watch documentaries and I'm looking at countries at war and they're visiting, um, whatever. What was it? I watched who was I think I watched Saddam Hussein visiting Cuba, and during 1991, the Gulf War, and looking at I was, I'm sorry, it's just frustrating. I
Right.
can't
Understood.
even get my thoughts together. It's so frustrating and maddening.
But yeah, so now we've thrown an accusation in here, again, from, the VP mascara boy there.
Not mascara. You know what? I wish I could make Harold's circle. I think I can make Harold's circle small enough to where he's Donald Trump's lapel pin. I think I could do
Ah,
it. And I want to take a picture of that.
no, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good.
So again, when it's saying things that make the president of Ukraine look ungrateful, as if he's never been appreciative of it. I'm pretty sure, as we've been giving them things, he's been gracefully thanking us. I'm sorry it's not always in the public eye, but that's just silly.
Well, the if we try to give this an honest read,
Okay.
JD was saying you didn't thank him once here, right? And I'm like, well, I don't know that you guys ever let him do that, right? I think you
Not let him
started
do
him,
it or give him the opportunity. The thing starts and
right.
you immediately
And the thing is that if people seize on that line, you've never said thanks. I can look out my window here and see New York, and there are teams of editors putting together Zelensky thank you compilation reels for the late night shows, right? They're all shot over here,
yeah.
and I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of video of Zelensky repeatedly and vehemently thanking the United States in
How
various
how
ways.
did we get to a point where factual news was only put on the Daily Show, John Oliver, and
Wow.
late night shows? Well,
But we do have to say again,
no, Dave, that's a
giving
serious
fairness
question.
where fairness is not offered. He did clarify that he meant in that interview.
Okay, I got it, but that was an actual question I had for you.
Yeah.
I could watch Fox and NBC and CNN, and they'll put together response reels, and they'll be great. But when they put them together on freaking The Daily Show, how are they putting together much better evidence of things than the actual news stations?
Well, you know,
Depends on
I
who you
don't know.
hire.
They like to bring in their own talking heads and pontificate and get, you know, if either you're a traditional news show that has 30 minutes of which 16 or commercials, um, and they seem to take half their time teasing you the news segment that they're going to come on later. Um, and so they don't have time for that. And it pisses people off. You know, you have to know that your audience is going to like that. And so when you play it for laughs, or we'll see it, we'll see it on TikTok, because the echo chamber, you know, in your echo chamber, you'll see it. They won't see it in the Republican echo chamber. And if you have news that's trying to be balanced and appeal to everybody, that would be piling on. And so they don't like that, would alienate part of their audience. So they might say, for the record, Zelensky has, you know, thanked us. You know, they might say that, but um, the news has always tried to not editorialize. People won't like that. They'll probably, heads will explode when I say that. But you know, the mainstream evening newses have what they prefer to have somebody else say Zelensky. You know, they like a third party to bring up, hey, Zelensky said thank you all the time. So they stay out of it, right? Um, and that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem with the media, is they won't call people on bullshit as much because it's seen as being partisan.
But my read, you know, listening to what the comments of JD Vance, it seems like his role was simply to gaslight. I mean, you know, you know, when you're sowing certain seeds or throwing out certain bits of quote unquote information, he changed the whole climate in the room, you know, based on, you know, what he's stated. And, you know, the fact that the president was not aware enough to realize that he was being gaslit or being told things that were not true, or
Mm-hmm.
either he's not alert enough to realize what's going on in the room. So that now we're back to a quote unquote, is he too old situation, which is what we just went through with this last election cycle.
Well, look at the body language in this shot that we've been talking over. You know, Zelensky's tired. Zelensky's getting shit from this little lickspittle.
Yeah.
Um,
But I'm
Trump
saying he's
is
gaslit.
Trump is sitting there with his hands folded in the middle, letting it happen.
Clueless.
And you know, this does sort of remind me of Elon Musk standing by his desk with his kid. You know, Trump sitting there, and we had the cabinet meeting the other day, and I don't know how representative the photo was. So but you know, he was in a cabinet meeting. Elon Musk was talking, and he was on his phone. Right, he was looking down at his phone, probably looking at his posts and stuff. And so there's this idea of him, you know, this is a question we might ask: is the administration working this way because that's the way they're working? That they need an active person in the room. But you know, he didn't do this with Starmer and Macron.
No. That's
So
my point. That's
yeah,
my point.
and
Would he do it with Netanyahu?
Nor
well,
Putin.
JD Vance would be. I don't want to say anything gross, but JD Vance would be cheerleading for Netanyahu. I think
Yeah.
is the thing.
So
All right, Chris. All right, okay, Chris, hold on. Let me get Dave out of the way. Let me not put
Get Dave out of the way. Oh, he looks better than me. I'll give him. Oh, now that placement does not work
Okay.
for me.
All right, that was not on purpose. Chris says a majority of their followers are easily influenced by bright lights and pretty colors. Stop it. Trump and his cabinet will pander to the low bar that his followers understand, making up facts and support. Yeah, we've discussed that at nauseum,
yeah.
especially Dave, because I couldn't understand the phenomena. If you guys go back and watch the older videos, I could not understand the phenomena that was happening in front of us. Let's get through the rest of this. Hold on.
Country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No.
Can
You've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You
We
voted
gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West
If
Indies?
you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks.
Do we need to
Dave,
keep watching this? I mean,
no, no. Well, that's not the question to ask on the live, but
but
um,
no, but it is a question. I mean, it's a thing of like, why won't this stop? Why is this not being stopped by somebody? A chief of
because
staff
there's no adults in the
in the
room.
room.
Can you imagine if Obama was the president right now and Joe Biden stepped out of line and was talking like that? The look that he would get would immediately let him know to shut his mouth.
And you know,
There's only
it,
one adult in that room, and
it's just
and the adult is not an American citizen.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the power to control the energy.
Look at the smile. I'm looking. Oh, I'm on a different frame. Like the smile on. I see a bigger window. The smile on JD's face when he said that. But he said, if you didn't have our equipment, Dave, you touched on this on one of your Ukraine equipment. Our aid didn't come in 3 days or 2 weeks. So why wasn't the war over in 3 days and 2 weeks?
because they fought like Ukrainians.
Yeah,
We didn't have that saying before, but now we do. And
yeah.
also, the Russians turned out to be incredibly corrupt and incompetent.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the let's march all of our tanks in a single file line down a main road.
Let's just not train any. Let's sell all of our sensitive communications equipment on the black
Well,
market so we can't communicate with one another.
It's the underestimation of your opponent. We've experienced that. We experienced it. We thought Vietnam would be fast. We've experienced it before on our side. Everyone who's invaded Afghanistan thought it was going to be over quickly. No one learned from the previous invader or liberator, whatever you want to call it, whatever spin you want to put on it. No one has been successful in that country, and it's the underestimation of your opponent every single time.
And once they held the line, then the aid flowed, and they would have been out of ammunition. They would have, and we have helped with training, and we've helped keep them in the fight with a lot of things, but we haven't done it alone. Europe has given more than us. That's something that, the European allies together, no nation has given more than the United States, but Europe's a lot of nations. And combined, they have given more than the United States. And in the end, I'm like, Europe is likely to come off the bench if Ukraine was to really start falling back, right? If the Ukrainians lines were to collapse, it's not clear to me that you would not have the Europeans go up a few levels, even to the extent of intervening. And they have said that, they have signaled that. And so Trump is not surprisingly grossly overestimating the value of the United States to the extent of totally he's denigrating, he's discounting the value of everyone else's aid. Very typical. We're the only ones that matter. No one else matters. And we're about to find out.
We are about to find. About to find out was me.
The rise of Europe. We're looking to see if Europe will rise to fill the vacuum that appears to be developing.
They will, because again, it's that analogy of they're going to be the ones to suffer the most if things get unchecked and out of hand, because these countries are all connected to each other.
Mhm.
It's the example that I keep trying to give to people over here of we have the safeness of knowing we have two borders, Mexico and Canada, but to some people's opinion, it's the worst thing ever being bordered to Mexico. Oh my God, we're in so much trouble. Be a country that's bordering someone who constantly want to invade you,
Yeah.
military wise, and then come back and talk to me. And all the 50 states are 50 states. We're all under one banner. But
Mhm.
again, imagine if every single one of those states were countries. Think about if the landlocked countries, like you have to deal with in Africa or in Europe, when you're a landlocked country and you have no access to ports or water, what you have to deal with politically. We don't have those pressures,
No.
you know. And in his statement that they took as an insult, it made sense. You have a large body of water between you and everyone else.
They took a statement of the obvious as an insult.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
can
basically.
see now we're gonna get enemies, we have things that happen in our country, terrorists, but an invasion we're gonna see coming miles away. When you're bordering countries that can invade you overnight, it's a little bit different.
Mm.
The question that Christopher had,
Oh, let
for
me
once
put up
I'm
this
seeing
question
these
because you
things.
could answer this a lot better than I can.
Um,
The
and
question is,
hey,
how
oh,
does
here
the
I am.
recent election? Well, let me read the question first, Dave. How does the most recent election in Germany change the playing field in Europe? Is it more favorable to the status quo or Putin?
Well, uh, I think that we're going to see a change, and I don't think the election produces produces that much of a change. The AFP got 20% ish, and they are not going to be in a coalition. And they are learning that when you are an extreme party in a parliamentary system, you are the least desirable person to make an arrangement with, right? You make it, you build a coalition in the middle, right? And so there are ample parties in the middle that are offended by the AFP, and to the extent that they see Putin as being part of the threat of AFP, the far right, and they see him in that, I think you're going to see a lot, you're going to see a very strong response. I think Germany has been moving in that way now. And scenes like what we're watching are only going to make them more and more assertive. And I think you're going to see the rise of Europe. I mean, actually, Dan Dresner predicted this a while ago. He said if Trump gets reelected, expect to see. He had a couple other things, but he said, expect to see Europe having to fill the void, and we're going to see if the EU takes on more of an active role, whether they become more of a military force, whether there's a European military. But Germany is the bank. Germany's the bank, Poland's the muscle. And if they have political comedy between those two, right? If the coalitions running those countries see themselves in a similar situation, not just vis-a-vis Putin, but vis-a-vis the far right opposition in their own country, you're going to have greater cooperation between them, and perhaps more willingness to work in concert with one another.
Thank you. I would not have known how to answer that question, and that's why I'm glad you're here. All right, we're going to wrap. We have 5 minutes left, so we're going to try to wrap this up. Let's go back to play. There's 3 minutes and 56 left in the video.
Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
Except
to American people.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers. Listen,
Please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go.
You know, he's the only one using the title Mr. President when he speaks.
I wanted this. Look, if you
Hmm.
can get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're
I
saying
said-
you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire.
guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
That
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was
wasn't
with
with you.
a guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your,
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement.
He gave them javelins, Dave, when he was
He was
president.
impeached over making that. By the way, those arms sales were part of what he got impeached over, because he was trying to have Zelensky do that investigation into the firing of a prosecutor who he thought would have been going, the whole Hunter Biden thing. And so they did get, the Trump administration did sell them javelins. Yeah, they sold them javelins.
There is a big difference between selling and giving. It's one thing if the Mercedes dealership gives me a car. It's another thing if they sell me a car.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, we usually sell these things to these folks.
No, I'm
and,
just saying we were being facetious when we just say I gave you. No,
Yeah.
you got something back. You sold them to me, and I bought them. And most of the time when we're selling weapons, Dave, you being in the military, we're not giving you the new shit. We're giving you the shit that's stored in the warehouse that we ain't using. Sometimes it's outdated.
Oh yeah. Well, and but yeah, and this whole thing at this point, he is now, you don't want to have. I mean, that's childish, and that is the kind of thing that's disrespectful and antagonistic to someone, and it is, and he's at this point of saying, "Oh, we want everyone to see how you are," and I'm sitting here going, "We're seeing how you are, right? You've just said you were happy to do this. You give weight to Harold's point that maybe this was a premeditated ambush, because even if it wasn't premeditated, you've just said that you were happy that it was going in this direction. You've just taken ownership of the ambush." And it's disgusting. Just disgusting.
Obama gave
I mean, I don't want to
sheets and Trump
regurgitate
gave
the same
javelins.
points that I said earlier, so
You got to be more thankful.
I'm rolling with Dave. It's
Oh, I
disgusting.
forgot. Harold can't hear. I was like, why is he talking over the video? I forgot. Sorry, Harold.
Oops.
Let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without
look
us,
at-
you don't have any cards.
Look at his look. He said, "You didn't have the cards." That's not a strong. That's someone who's sick. That's someone who's demented.
Because the attitudes have to change.
Trump's body language there is.
What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do we do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you
but
saying?
what if
She's asking, what if Russia
Putin
breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
But they have
Okay?
broken
What if they
ceasefire.
broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me.
But what
Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt with.
Okay. All right. Jesus
But
Christ.
again, it just shows that last clip.
Mhm.
He is not giving an answer. She is asking, what if they break the ceasefire? Right? Because that's why he doesn't want just a ceasefire. He wants security guarantees, because they've had ceasefires where there were no consequences to Putin breaking them. And so he wants to have somebody guaranteeing him, before he stands down his military, he wants someone to give security guarantees. And the woman just asked, what if not? His response is, again, this is very Trump, that it's all about the personal. Biden was weak, and it's about who Biden is. And they don't respect him, so they're going to screw him. The point is, though, that it's about actions, right? What will you do, right? And why would they respect you? They would respect you if you would take some action. He has not offered any actions. He has just said that he's given no specifics, and he's refusing to give the security guarantees that would be what would make you strong, right? If you said something like, hey, I mean, it doesn't have to be intervention, but if Trump had ever pitched, look, we're going to make this agreement, and if you violate it, we're going to open the floodgates, and we're going to give them every frickin' weapon they want. So your choice is to make peace with the Ukraine now, or or do so. I mean, it could be that kind of threat, but it isn't there. It's all about Trump's belief that he has some personal power and that he is respected, which, by the way, is probably his daily experience with the sycophantic followers that he has and that he insists on having around him. But it's always back to Trump's belief in himself and his mystical ability to make a deal and to be strong. And that is where we're having a problem. There is no security guarantee. And it goes straight back to the question of what is the diplomacy, JD, you're talking about? And we've come full circle. And I will land my plane.
The plane has landed.
You're just going to second that plane land, Earl, since he landed it, and that's it?
I second the motion. That's it.
Well, unlike President Zelensky, Christopher McPhail says thank you. I like when he says, I thank you guys 100 times, and they just talked over it. No, you don't thank us. No.
We know you're wrong. We know you're wrong. Right? That was that. I just love that. We know you're wrong. And
That's
like,
so
there's no room for, yeah.
Let's see.
Should have got Trump to play Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy. He is incapable of seeing the forest for the trees, unless the trees all have little red comb-overs.
Oh, I don't like that forest before the trees. Somebody I know uses that all the time, and I want to say, like Princess Bride, I don't think he knows what that means. Thank you guys for coming on a spur of the moment. I know we do these on Wednesdays. For coming on, responding to that, because that's something that happened yesterday. So I appreciate your time. Thank you, Chris, and others who are watching. Catch us next time on The Conversation. We've got some great things coming up. Please go watch Dave's last Ukraine update, which was, funny because he said in the Ukraine update 2 days ago, this might be outdated really fast.
I was like, this is not going to age well. And because a lot of it was about, it's still relevant in the sense that I explained then what the mineral deal that they didn't sign today that is being kind of overshadowed was, and what they lost today because of this little whatever it was. I'm waiting for this snarky close.
No, there was no snarky close.
You usually say something at the end.
Well, I'm so used to someone to get what are you laughing at, Mr. I can't hear anything because I'm on my phone with my Boost mobile internet?
That was the snarky ending.